Yes.
Hey, Ian.
How's it going?
It's going. Thanks for having me out here. So you want to, we'll look that way.
Yeah.
You want to kind of tell the people who you are, what you do?
Yeah. My name's Ian Cherry. I'm owner-operator of Whiskey Tango Firearms. We specialize in, we do some sales, but we do a lot of custom coding, custom configurations, gunsmithing, and then a whole mess of training, including, it's not a virtual, but it's a simulation where you have a projector and IR laser guns. So we can run those indoors, and it's a completely safe form of training. And then we take that training all the way up to what we were doing out here today, which is running from the holster, drills, multiple targets, movement, and all that other stuff. So you can start off indoors under safe environments, get the basic safety down, move into the shooting classes where you're not allowed to make any mistakes because you got more shooters there, and be a little bit more confident going into that situation too.
So how, you kind of gave me a little bit of your background. How'd you end up doing all this?
You can cut in and out of what you want.
Oh, yeah.
But I got into the gun business because I got interested in painting guns, mainly because I'm kind of petty and a little bit passive aggressive. One of my old business partners, and the business didn't work out well partner-wise, one of my old business partners had posted something that he had done to a gun, custom paint job on it. It was really basic, and my pettiness was like, well, I can do better than that. So I started reaching out, finding out some information about it. About the same time, I was tattooing a guy that was getting ready to open a gun shop. He opened up a gun shop and rented me some space so I could kind of like practice and get used to doing it. So I really started the business as a doing the coating mainly, the custom finishing of the guns. But it just kind of grew from there. And then when I moved and did my own thing at my own location, I just incorporated everything with the sales and the whole 9 yards.
I mean, yeah, you got your FFL, probably got your SOT. Figured
oh yeah, we do all SOT stuff. We have no problem, unlike some other gun shops in town, we have no problem doing transfers. We love doing that for customers. Brings them into the shop, lets them know who we are and what we do.
Yeah. So right now, it is August of 2025.
God awful hot in summer, yes.
Besides that being god awful hot in Florida summer, and we started at like 9 o'clock, and it's been miserable since the beginning.
It's 40, 90 degrees.
Yeah. So right now, being August 2025, the big thing is Sig is in some hot water because of the 320.
Yes.
So I'd imagine people are going to be in the market again looking for a different gun, or they might actually be interested in scooping up a few P320s, which I might. I would personally not recommend given the circumstances. But what would you say?
As far as that whole situation goes in general, I agree strongly with where there's smoke, there's probably some fire.
Yeah.
I also think that there's close to 4 million P20s or P320s out there. So, what percentage of those guns are actually fail problems?
Yeah.
They definitely need to do the testing and find out. I do not blame somebody for not necessarily wanting to deal with one right now because there is a potential risk there. We don't know what that is yet.
Yeah.
I'm reserving my final decision until I can find out what the testing actually brings up. When they actually identify the problem. I don't expect P320s to be flying off the shelf right now. No, you're right. No. Yeah.
And you're right. Like, I think the whole 320 thing has kind of gotten into the mainstream, which is wild. Yeah. But I think really what it boils down for me is, you're right. We can't account for every single one. We can't account for all the things that people do to theirs and the circumstances. I think for me, it really just boils down to the way that SIG has been handling this with everybody and the way that they've kind of been a little harsh.
They do not have a great step forward. Their foot forward right now is not great because they're basically vehemently denying it.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then they're doing the right thing. But if there is a problem and it comes out that there was something that was a design or a manufacturing or a tolerance stacking, there's all these wild speculations, but it's not been a repeatable problem enough yet, but I think we're going to start seeing that because the Department of Defense and SOCOM, they're going to have to test these guns and find out what's going on because they have contracts. And if SIG is in violation of providing a unsafe product, then they're going to be in violation of that contract.
And that's the
M17, M18, yeah. So we should be seeing some actual testing and recreating of the problems that will really narrow down. And like I said, I'm holding judgment off until I know for sure.
Yeah.
But I do think that there's probably something going on. Now, you also have the consideration that's like law enforcement. Okay, it's like, is it better to have a negligent discharge or is it better to say that the gun went off on its own?
Yeah.
Probably less paperwork if the gun just did it on its own.
Absolutely.
So there's, I question some of those reports, but then there's some on video and there's some very credible reports too. I think at least a half a dozen of them now, and that number may be growing up.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and I think really at the end of the day, what it comes down to is the consumer. It's a matter of two things for me. It's a matter of safety. It's a matter of what the consumer is getting into.
Yes.
Given that there's so much of a focus on safety when it comes to this space that it does seem negligent on SIG's part.
Yes.
To either just outright deny. I mean, I would say maybe take it back a step and have a little bit of humility. And I think that's where it really falls down to, is just have a little bit of humility and say, you know what, we'll look into this. We don't know for certain what the problem is, but just to outright gaslight and to attack certain precincts for these things.
And I understand their stance on it. It's like, it's like clickbait and all that else. Yeah, that's been a problem. The problem also started because they had the drop safety issue, which was actually a really minor issue on the most part, but it was a concern, so they did a voluntary recall on it.
Yeah.
There are tons of 320s out there that have never been recalled that don't have this problem because it's just not an easy thing to recreate. But that got conflated with the negligent discharge, or the uncommanded discharges, which is different than negligent.
Yeah.
The uncommanded discharge problem, and all that stuff got conflated. I mean, the amount of people that have come into the shop that swear to me that their buddy's 320 on their truck did this and all this.
Yeah.
BS, I'm calling BS on that.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
people get caught up in this area.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is like once it hits the mainstream and people pick up wind, it actually kind of works against SIG. Whereas if they took a more moderate stance on the whole thing, it might not as.
As a business person, I tend to take, when I have a customer that's complaining about something, I tend to take a step back and not try to put it on them. Always try to be amicable. SIG doesn't seem to be doing that, but like I said, we'll wait and see what happens.
So it
could be a shit show. But I would like to stress this to people that are concerned about SIG in general. We are talking about one gun design that they have, the 320, which is a modified 250, if I'm not mistaken, 2-something series that they did. And that's the only gun that has it. The 365s are great. The rifles are great. Everything else that they're making, there are other divisions are no issues reported whatsoever.
Absolutely.
And SIG has an amazing reputation, and I'm really hoping that this doesn't destroy their reputation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because it has the potential to.
I would agree. Yeah, I would absolutely agree. They do have a pretty solid lineup of other firearms in their catalog, and it's unfortunate that it's putting so much of a spotlight on them because of this one problem.
Yeah.
So given that people are probably coming to you to get rid of their 320s, or they're looking away from SIGs, what would you say are important considerations when it comes to people
selecting
a firearm as far as fitment and things of that nature?
Yeah, you got 3 basic categories that you have to consider. It's like, what is the gun getting used for? How does the gun fit my hand? And then, can I manage the caliber? Those are your 3 main criteria.
So if you're a girl, you should get a revolver.
Not a bad idea. I usually put it more in the sense that if you're not going to train with the gun, if you're not going to do the dry practice, and also revolvers are great because they're kind of hard to mess up. They should run no matter what. They're simple mechanical designs.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about feeding problems. Changing out a magazine. You just pull the trigger. If it goes click, you pull the trigger again.
Yeah.
So male, female, old, young. If you're not going to train, revolvers are great. I carry a revolver every single day, not because I don't train, but because it's a super light, easy gun to carry. Excuse me. And I know that it's absolutely worthless at any kind of distance. It's just a defensive carry gun. And that's where the purpose comes in. It's like I always use the metaphor. It's like you don't use your Corvette to go pick up lumber, and you don't use your Ford F-350 dually to run on a quarter-mile track. You can, but that's not what they were designed for.
No.
So if your idea is I'm going to buy a cute little light gun that just I can put in a drawer somewhere, that gun is no fun to shoot. It's designed to be carried. It's not designed to be shot.
Yeah.
It's designed to make it easy to have a gun with you, and you deal with the discomfort when you need to, because you're only going to be shooting hopefully 2 or 3 rounds.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you go to the range, you get into something that's bigger. It is more fun to shoot. Like my little revolver that I carry, I don't want to put any more than 3 cylinders through it and I'm done. My hand hurts, I don't want to touch it anymore. My VP9 that I carry here, I can run 300, 400, 500 rounds in it in a day and have a blast the whole time.
Yeah.
So size does matter when it comes to selecting. If you're not going to be carrying it, go for something that's a little bit bigger, that's going to be a little bit more manageable and easy to shoot. And then how it fits in your hand, that's going to be different from manufacturer to manufacturer. The grip angles, the grip size, the shape, the ergonomics. I ran Glocks a lot. I had no problems with Glocks, great running guns. As soon as I put a VP9 in my hand, my sight alignment on a press out was almost perfect every single time. There were my sights. With the Glock, it was always find the sight, that last little bit. With the VP9, 90% of that went away.
Yeah.
So it just fits me better. So I switched to the VP9, and that's what I use primarily. So finding a gun that fits your hand is really important also. And then considerations with the caliber of the ammunition is, can I afford to shoot it? You know, if you're doing something that's $3 a round, you can't go out and shoot 300-400 rounds in a day. But if you're shooting 9mm at 26 cents a round, okay, that I can afford to shoot all day long.
Yeah.
And also what you can handle. So if you have, you know, arthritis or a dainty little wrist or something like that, maybe don't go through 357 or 44 Magnum.
Probably not.
9mm is a good place to start. If you have problems with that, take a step back to a 380. And then if you have a problem with that, then we'd have to go into some, like, you know, individual consultation on that.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I would say that a lot of people are spending most of their time probably doing their research online. Does it still, would you say that it's probably worth everyone's time to go into a shop at least one time and get a handful of different guns with different ergonomics so that they can get a feel for what those are?
When we do our basic pistol classes, we have 15, 20 different kinds of handguns.
Oh,
and we pick them because of the grip change, the trigger change, the safety change, you know, all the different features, so that way people can put their hands on the guns and see what they like. So that's always valuable. Just see what fits in your hand comfortably once you know what caliber you can handle. As far as, there was another part of that question that I was going to answer and I didn't quite get it.
Ergonomics and
Ergonomics, buying, pressure, gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'd mentioned something about it being most people do their shopping online.
Oh, yeah. So there's really good information on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's a matter of finding the people that are disseminating information in a particular way. So when the guy's up there going, it's like, well, I think if you pull, you do this, and they're fumbling, then they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. But if they come up there and they basically give you a lesson plan where they start at point one and they're clear and concise, those are the people that probably they put more effort into what they're saying, so they probably have more behind what they're saying also. However, going into a gun shop and actually putting your hands on the guns and talking to somebody, you know, it's like Si's over there hiding right now, but he's super knowledgeable. I love having him on the front counter because people come in, they can ask questions, stupid or not, and get answers that help them make better decisions. That's what it all is about. Whether you're buying the gun, make good decisions based on good information. Whether you're carrying the gun, know what the laws are so that way you can be effective with the gun, and practice with the gun so that way you can be effective with it also.
Yeah. Well, you make a good point too. You said that stupid or not, because the thing is, if you're coming in completely fresh, you've never had any experience, what you think is stupid because it's just your cursory understanding of things from the outside may not be that stupid.
I had a guy come in the shop one time, bought an AR the week before from me, comes in, and he's like, yeah, I got a question, you know, the deflector. And he's like, I'm getting all these marks on the deflector, and there was a guy at the counter that was a customer, and he's kind of laughing, oh, you don't know what that is, you know, stuff. And I was like, whoa, dude. It's like, did you know what it was the first time you picked up an AR? And he's like, no, I had to learn. I was like, well, let's this guy learn. And I explained to him, it's like, that's normal, that's a deflector, that's what it's bouncing off of, that's what gives you the angle of deflection and all this stuff. That brass can clean up, told him how to clean it up. And that guy feels more comfortable coming into the shop now, and he's been a regular, and he's actually becoming more of an advanced shooter now 3 years later, because he felt like, I walked into tattoo shops, into gun shops as a novice in my 20s, and both times I got the attitude, and I'm doing you a favor by even talking to you kind of situation, and it kept me away from it. And I mean, look at me now, I'm heavily tattooed, I fucking own more guns than I need, and that's all because I got into it at my own pace with good information from good people. Had I gone with the attitude that I got before, I probably never would have gotten into either of these fields.
There is just that element of, like, you can do things out of convenience online, but there is just that human element of actually going to a shop. Besides getting hands-on, it's kind of like getting a car. Like, you got to test drive it. I mean, you really can't test drive it unless there's a range attached to your place. But you really have to get some more familiarity besides just looking at a few videos online. And to that point, just because someone is speaking well on a gun, it's not to say that they are a sponsored, you know, they could be sponsored and, you know, they might be getting paid to speak highly of a weapon.
Due diligence. Figure out where these guys are coming from and what they're saying, and if it's consistent with what other people are saying also, that's a big thing too.
Yeah, because this is going to be something that you might rely on in a life or death situation, so you absolutely...
This is deadly force, and there are a lot of considerations that come with, if I'm going to carry deadly force with me, I have to know, you know, when am I legally allowed to use it, when is it safe to use it, how to use it safely. And, you know, all that stuff has to come into play on that. You can't just, you know, take it for granted that it's like, oh, I bought a gun, I'm going to know how to use it when the wolf comes knocking at the door. If you don't handle the gun, if you don't practice with it, no, you're not. And you're not going to be proficient with it, you know. But if you put your hands on it, do dry practice 3 to 5 minutes a day, that's all it takes. Do dry practice on it regularly. Go to the range once a month, once every 2 months. You'll find at the end of 4 or 5 months of doing that, you will be so good with the gun, you'll be surprising yourself.
Oh yeah, absolutely. What's cool is I'd mentioned that you kind of maximized what you were doing with the shop. You got your FFL, you got your SOT, but you also went the next step. You train people,
Yeah.
and you have a scenario-based training setup in your shop as well.
Yeah, it's really great for the basic pistol classes because once somebody's hitting the target correctly, and even before we had the simulator, we did a minimum of 50 rounds per student on a basic pistol class because we wanted to make sure that we could see them get over that learning curve. Where when I took my class, when I moved back to Florida, it was literally one shot. That was it. Load the gun, take a shot, unload the gun.
Good job, you passed.
There you go, you pass, you know? And so it's like you didn't see me do anything besides one thing, you know? So we used to do a minimum of 50 rounds, and now that we have the simulator, we can do more than that, and if they're getting the static shooting really well, we can put them on the scenarios where we got a guy, you know, like coming to the front door and following you in your house, or coming up to you at a ATM, or we got one that has two people breaking into the backside of your house through the kitchen kind of thing.
Yeah.
And those are really great because it starts putting the thought process behind what we're teaching as far as like what does brandishing a weapon mean? What is defensive display? All of those things. When does the gun come out? When does the gun get pointed? When does the gun get fired? And in the case of the people breaking in the backyard or breaking in the back of your house, it's like, when do you give the verbal cues? You know, do you just stand there and wait for them to come in and shoot them? Or do you like, no, I'm home, get out of here, I'm armed, I called the cops, and give them a chance to leave because your day goes way better if you don't have to shoot anybody.
That's true. That's true.
As much as you might want to shoot somebody that's an asshole and is breaking into your place, it's better to not just let go.
It might not be legal, you justify him.
Exactly.
Yeah, he was just being a prick, so I shot him.
Yeah,
no, that not at all. And you bring up a really good point in that. Your proficiency doesn't like really start or bloom at your acquiring your CCW.
No.
There's so much more to it.
Yes.
And besides just picking out a gun. So it is a right, but the right comes with a great amount of responsibility.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's your responsibility to know the laws. It's your responsibility to follow them. It's your responsibility to be proficient with it. Like I said, this is deadly force. It's not like, you know, a car is deadly force also.
Yeah.
You have to be responsible for it because you could literally kill people by just driving down the street.
Yeah.
Same thing with a gun. You've got a gun in your pocket. If you are using it to defend yourself and you're not taking consideration what's going on around behind people, you can cause more damage to other people that you don't intend to. So there's a shit ton of responsibility that comes with that. And you know, it's like relying on the fact that it's like, oh, if I point the gun at them, they'll run away. Well, maybe not. You have to be able to make that moral decision. Am I willing to defend myself with deadly force?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm a pacifist. I will do everything I can to avoid an argument, a fight. I will self-deprecate. Oh yeah, I'm a pussy, whatever. I don't care because there's no point in getting into a fight. The only thing that fighting proves is who's stronger, not who's right. So what's the point? So, you know, if you can avoid getting into the situation at all costs, that's the best way to get done.
Yeah.
You win every fight you don't attend.
Well,
So try not to get into
the goal is to be able to walk away safe.
Yes.
So if that means you don't have to engage in the fight at all, so be it.
And the simple being aware of your surroundings enough to see something coming is enough usually to keep you away from it. If you're tucked into your phone all the time and not paying attention, you will be picked out as an easy target.
Absolutely.
That's what people are looking for when they're criminals.
Yeah, absolutely. So that, you know, we can keep chatting on for the rest of the day, but it's hot as balls out here. We'll do this again a couple more times.
Yeah, like I said, we should set up and do some videos on the simulator upstairs.
Absolutely,
too.
yeah. Let's do that. That way people can get a sense
air
of what that looks like. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be really nice. So that way, that's a good point. It's like you have to compartment. You actually said something really cool in that, like every stage of brandishing, presenting all these things actually presents a certain set of considerations. Yeah. And not everyone is aware, just because they got their CCW or just because they got a gun, that there's a way to skin every single part of those things. And it's cool that while it seems like a comfortable thing to have AC in a place like that, it allows you to just focus on the task at hand, which is just the scenario, as opposed to it's hot, I'm miserable, I'm gonna go. Yeah,
and training through discomfort is a good thing.
Yes,
but it's nice to have your basics down ahead of time to know where you're going with that.
Well, that's why you kept. I think everyone starts harping on this after a point, and I can remember at the very start I thought, okay, to be good at this I need to shoot, but really, like, I've spent more time dry firing than I've actually spent.
You will be surprised. You already know that doing dry practice 3 to 5 minute sessions, especially if you can do it 2 to 3 times a day, at the end of a week or two you will see a marked improvement just because you're going to be so much smoother at running that gun.
Absolutely. Well, you touched on a good point about how it's similar to driving, but it's not, because in the driver's license handbook it says that driving is a privilege, not a right, whereas this is a right. We just have the responsibility to be good at it. the thing with driving is we do it so often, we get good at it.
Yeah.
You start out and you have two hands on the wheel, you're nervous as hell, you're staring down the road, locked in, and you get to driving in a couple of years, you got a knee on the steering wheel, you got a burger in one hand, a cup of something in the other hand, and it makes it easier because these things just kind of fall into the background. Similar thing when you dry fire, and the reason why everyone in this industry pushes dry fire so much is that you're just trying to make this as regular as brushing your teeth.
Exactly. You don't have, when you're driving the car, you don't have to think. If a ball comes bouncing out in front of you, you don't have to stop and think, okay, if I take my foot off of this pedal on the right, I should stop speeding up, and I can use this pedal on the left, and that will slow me down. Oh, and this thing in my hand, I better turn it this way so that way I go away from the ball. You don't think about that. No. You just do it.
Yep.
And if you are pulling out your gun and you're like, oh, where's the safety? Is the magazine in? Am I loaded? That's not good. But if you can pick it up and know it like you know the remote control, like the control for your cars or the remote control for your TV, and you can pick that gun up and just instinctively run through, okay, I'm loaded. You know, I do a lot of my PCC reloads right now with my eyes closed because I'm doing more night shooting, and so it's like I have to be able to do that at night
dark,
without being able to see. I don't have a focal point, so it's like you can layer your training on top of training at the same time too.
Absolutely.
And just to touch on it really quick, since we talked really briefly about brandishing, defensive display, brandishing is basically the gun comes out and I'm giving directions without being in fear for my life. Get out of my yard, get out of here, that kind of stuff. There's no apparent threat to my life or bodily injury, or severe bodily injury. Excuse me, the term is great bodily injury. There's no imminent threat to that, and the gun comes out, that's brandishing a firearm, very illegal. Defensive display, I see something, I identify something as a threat, I am potentially in fear for my life, I'm bringing out the gun as a precautionary and also as a warning to let this person know that, hey, I'm not an easy target, and then you have defensive use, obviously, when you fire the gun.
Yeah. So
brandishing a firearm is not illegal. Brandishing a firearm is very illegal. Defensive display of a firearm is not illegal as long as you can qualify why you were in fear for your life.
There was an actual
that something was happening there. So that's an important notation for people.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's another nuance that most people don't understand. Is like because I think it's mind-numbing to see all this like footage of people who are having like a road rage incident, and they'll put their gun out just to kind of as a show, like, hey, and it's just not worth it.
No.
Like, you can go to jail just because you pulled your gun out.
Yeah. You have to be able to articulate why you were, and it's very clear. I was in fear of great bodily injury or death. Great bodily injury means I could get injured. You know, somebody standing here next to me with a baseball bat, they could definitely put me in the hospital and I could possibly die from that. Standing over there by the fence with a baseball bat, no, that doesn't qualify. Yeah. You know, standing over there with a gun, absolutely, they could do great bodily injury or death to me. So that's your kind of like your go point. That's where you want to be at before you consider taking the gun out. And realize that most of the times that the defensive display of a firearm is enough to change somebody's mind if you can be ahead of the curve.
Absolutely.
If you're waiting till they're on top of you, then no, you're in a fight.
Yeah. I try to sort of, I'm trying to figure out a way to present this kind of information to people because I think you almost have to be a little bit off in the head to look for scenarios like this. I recently just saw a video of there was a resource officer for a school. Somebody drove through the parking lot at an erratic high speed. The resource officer followed them to another facility or another parking lot, and they got into an altercation. And the other driver, the guy that drove through, not the officer, he ended up getting on top of the officer, and the officer said, "I'm going to shoot you." And the guy was still continuing to attack the officer. He said, "I'm going to shoot you." He said, "Go for it." And you can sense the hesitation, even though this guy's potentially trained, even though this guy understands the implications of what he's about to do, he still is reluctant because even though he's got this guy literally on top of him, and he's like trying to like choke this guy to get him off of him, he's still relenting, and he's like, "I'm going to shoot you." He's announcing this, and it's still not enough. Yeah. So even though he escalated verbally and he announced it, it's like you said, just because you bring your gun out, that's not going to say that it's going to stop the situation necessarily. No. And it wasn't even until he actually shot the guy one time, and the guy was in shock. Like, the guy is clearly on top of the officer. The guy is clearly like hurting him, and he's already got verbal warnings multiple times, and he's still in shock. Yeah. So I think that's actually really cool that you do have that scenario set up upstairs in your shop.
Yeah, it lets you think through it ahead of time, and it puts information. That's all we're trying to do, is we're trying to give you nothing. If we could train you for the fight that you're going to have, we would lay that scenario out, and you would know exactly, like a SEAL. You know, Navy SEAL going into a deployment, they spend 4 to 6 months learning exactly the building that they're going into, exactly the kind of resistance that they're going to get, exactly what they're going to need to have with them.
Yeah.
You don't have that luxury. So what we can do instead is we can train you by teaching you the kind of general situations that we know people have been in, and what they've done and how they've reacted to the situation. That gives you a better database, so that way if you're ever in that situation, you have a better chance of making a good decision.
That's right.
Versus just going into a cold and having to figure it out. You know, it's like if you don't have a fire plan for your house and the fire happens, you got to figure out what to do.
In the moment.
If you have a fire plan and the fire happens, you already know your first 6 steps. So you're already ahead of the game.
Yeah.
Then it's just a matter of making sure everybody's safe.
Absolutely.
But if you don't have a plan of attack ahead of time, you're not going to be able to deal with a stress situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is another point I wanted to bring up, is it's critically important, like you said, when it comes to the ball in the street and when you're driving. Everything has, it seems from the outside like a seemingly arbitrary thing. Oh, I'm going to get really good at shooting. I'm going to get really good at shooting fast. I'm going to get really good at hitting a bullseye. These things seem arbitrary on the outside until you understand that shooting quickly and accurately is actually critical, because incidences happen so fast and you have to process them so quickly. It's
3 seconds or less, 3 yards or less, 3 shots or less. I think it's like 96% of the time, according to FBI statistics.
Yeah.
Those are the parameters.
Absolutely.
So you're not going to get into this protracted, I'm shooting, I'm reloading, I'm shooting. That just doesn't happen in real life. You know, it's like if that happens when you're in the military or in law enforcement.
A gunfight does not look
and even in law enforcement, that does not happen as often as the movies portray it, for sure.
Yeah, like I said, like it's, I would warn people to be careful about looking at scenarios. There's plenty of places to look for footage like this.
Yeah.
But I think if you sort of prepare your mind and intentionally watch a few, just to kind of ground yourself in the understanding of what that scenario looks like, it's not as pretty as you think it is. It's not like a protracted gunfight. It's not like Heat. No. It's not like you're on like opposite like defensive positions and you're like shooting at each other, and like it's gonna be cake. It's gonna be a mess. Someone's gonna get hurt.
Yeah. So
where can people find you if they either want to have their firearms painted or they want to
training or whatever? So we're in Sarasota, Florida. We're located at 5662 Palmer Boulevard, basically right near Fruitville and I-75 area. And we're open Tuesday through Saturdays, and then we make appointments as needed for anything else.
Sweet. All right. That was a good talk.
My pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
Anytime.